So continuing my work on guitar number 56 here, I'm going to be adding carbon fiber strips to either side of the truss rod slot. I did this on a couple of my past guitars, and now I'm taking you along for the ride here so you can see how I do that. The purpose of the carbon fiber rods, by the way, is not to further increase the strength of the truss rod, but rather it's to provide lateral support across the width of the neck so you don't get any kind of twisting. So the truss rod can handle problems of forward bow and back bow, but it can't do anything about a twist in the neck. That's what the carbon fiber is for. So I'm beginning here by making sure that the edge of the neck blank that I've constructed is meticulously flat and square across its full length. And that will give me a reference to bear against the fence when I'm routing both my truss rod slot and the slots for the carbon fiber strips. First, I'll take care of the truss rod slot by marking out its center location at the heel and where it terminates at the headstock, and then pulling that terminating line out onto the sides and the top of the neck blank so I can see it while I'm routing. Alright, so these are the carbon fiber rods that I'm going to be using here. And so these are going to sit on either side of the truss rod slot that I just cut. And on the last guitar that I did carbon fiber rods, it was a Port Orford cedar guitar, guitar number 49, and I actually installed these rods so they went up to about the same area that the truss rod slot goes and stopped them dead there. But this time around, I think what I'm going to do is actually run the rods straight through and then cut them off at the headstock area. You can do this either way. You can stop them short or you can run them right through. I think originally the reason I stopped them short is because I was thinking along the same lines of why I stopped the truss rod slot short, and that's because if I just run the truss rod slot straight through, then there'll be a little gap over here. Even if you're intentionally setting up your truss rod that way so that the adjustment end pokes out of the neck, that still leaves a gap of wood underneath or around the scarf joint, because this portion of the truss rod isn't really filling the space. It's just the adjustable hex nut portion here. So the only parts of the truss rod that actually fill the space of the truss rod slot are the nuts on either end. These two boxes here. Even in the middle, the truss rod's not actually bridging this gap and filling the space because it has to have that adjustability to be able to move. So in a sense, you're weakening the wood by cutting out this channel, and then you're really incompletely stiffening it back up with the truss rod. Because the idea of the truss rod is not necessarily that it simply makes the neck stronger, but that it adds an element of adjustability to the neck. Now the carbon fiber rods purely strengthen up the neck, and they strengthen it up laterally so you don't get any sort of twist in the neck, which ordinarily, if you just have a truss rod, that little bit of twist that you might get seasonally, or just if the neck settles over time, that little bit of twist, there's really nothing you can do about it. You can adjust the back bow and the forward bow, but you can't correct that lateral twist. Carbon fiber rods helps with that. What I was starting to say was the reason why this time I think I'm going to run them all the way through is because I think the first time I really wasn't even thinking about the fact that, hey, running it straight through the scarf joint only makes it stronger because we're actually filling the void completely. This is taking the place of the wood and is in fact stronger than the wood. So there's no concern of weakening this area by running the slot straight through. You actually can only make it stronger. So I'll run it straight through and then cut off the excess at the end before I install them. Alright, so let's do exactly that. So now I'm marking out where my slots for the carbon fiber rods are going to be based on where the truss rod slot already is. I want there to be at least 1/8 of an inch of wood between the carbon fiber slot and the truss rod slot. I think that's a good minimum amount. I load up 1/8 of an inch straight cut bit into my router because that fits my 1/8 of an inch thick carbon fiber rods. So now first I realign my fence so that it lines up with one of the new marks for the carbon fiber slot. Then I make my routes down to depth in several passes. And that's just the first pass on that side. I'll do probably 3 more to get it down to depth. Now with that slot complete, I reset the depth and flip the neck around and run it from the other side, going headstock first, in order to cut the second slot. So I'm fitting the truss rod in first here just to brace that thin piece of wood between the carbon fiber rod and the truss rod slot. Otherwise, when I tap in these carbon fiber rods, there's a very high chance that that thin sliver of wood will just break out in the direction of the truss rod slot.
If you learned something here, please give this video a like and subscribe so you can be notified when I release a new DIY guitar making video every Friday. And if you want to really learn more, take one of my structured online courses at ericschaferguitars.com or register for a hands-on guitar building workshop here with me in Burnville, Pennsylvania.